as accomplished as I may think I am on a daily basis, that it also doesn't mean that like I'm not Elon Musk, right? I'm not Jeff Bezos. There are people like that are raising capital too, that are even, that entire other level of capability versus myself. And so, I see it just much more as I'm going to do my best to communicate crisply what it is that I do to you. And then once we have that communication, we can decide if it's a fit or not. Again, just much like more like an interview, getting a job or something like that. It's not that you're not qualified for it. It's just, is it a good fit?
Yeah. So entrepreneurs, you hear that out there. Because I think a lot of people, when they go into a room and they get the person that says no, they just think their idea is not good enough. And they don't understand that sometimes the fit is what the person's looking at versus the idea. Because
you said, for sure. Thank you. Yeah. Like I would love to clarify that if I can. Like I remember the first couple of times I pitched investors, and I was pitching these angels that wanted to invest in businesses that could grow to be $100 million. And the idea that I had was an idea that could grow to be $10 or $20 million and had a very high likelihood of success. It just would never be $100 million. And they all said no. And I interpreted that as saying, my idea is bad. My idea was phenomenal. It just wasn't a fit for those investors at that particular time. The other thing, by the way, to remember, and for all the investors that are listening in here, is that investors actually, plug your ears, please. I mean, they're not actually that bright.
I'm an investor. No, I'm joking.
I used to think that investors like had some view of the future that was like more sophisticated than mine. And I actually believe quite the opposite now. I believe that investors are trying to understand the future just like everybody else, but they have to view it through the lens of capital markets, which is actually a much more constrictive lens than a lens of people and technology and businesses and business plans and marketing and doing stuff. And so they actually are followers much more so than they are leaders. And when you don't have money, right, and you need money, it's really easy to see the people as having the money as being a leader. It's like, they said, go do this, I'm gonna go do that, right?
Look, they got money.
That's the dude with the checkbook just told me, if I go and instead of building a Ford, I build, I don't know, I build freaking fish tanks, that's the future of cars. No, right? Like the future of cars was still what Henry Ford thought it was. That was just the investor who happened to have a bunch of experience building fish tanks. Like it has no bearing on the actual future. But they said to go do that. No, don't do that. Like you, if you know this is going to work and you really do, I think that's way more powerful than some like uninformed investor saying, I think the goal's over there.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh man. Before we don't leave this topic, you said something about when you went into a company, you had the idea, and you said, I want to build it to a $1 million, $100 million company, and the investor saw that, nah, what you're doing, or they, after fleshing out or whatever the situation is, murder boarding it or whatever happened, that wouldn't be $100 million idea. How do you figure out in the world, because everybody thinks their idea is golden, right? And everybody says that it's going to be, I'm going to make $1 billion. I'm going to make $1 billion company. They think it's so easy, right? How do you maneuver in that space to say, like you say, hey, Deep Sentinel, you said it's going to be a $50 to a $100 million company. So how do you factor that in your head? Well,
this is the argument part, right? Like, so if you get a chance to talk about this, then you're probably talking about the right thing. You've convinced the other person that there's an opportunity. You've convinced the other person that you're worthwhile having a debate with. You've convinced them that there's some like product gap or service gap in the market. Now you're just talking about size, by the way, right? So that's number one, right? This is I think one of the most complex types of conversations you can have, because different types of investors care about this differently. So debt investors, I care about the market being big enough that you don't blow up and you can pay my debt back. That's Bank of America. That's Wells Fargo. That's somebody that even if you're doing venture debt or you're doing an equipment loan, I want to buy this tractor or this piece of equipment, these computer servers, and I'm going to use them for this. What they care about is that the market is big enough that you are not going to blow up before you can pay me back.